So good morning, everyone. I think, are we live now? Thank you, Jen.
Yes.
Alrighty, good morning, everybody, and I'd like to call this meeting of the City of San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture, June edition to order. My name is Janet Poutre, and I am the chair of the City of San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture, and thanks for joining us this morning at our monthly meeting. We have protocols for virtual meetings so that we can make sure we are providing the highest level of transparency and access for the community while we are not able to meet in person. So I hope everybody will be patient with us, and anytime we have a little problem with the technology. Also, I'd like to ask the colleagues that are meeting with us today to keep their video on. It helps to make sure that we provide access to the community, and I'd like to ask the same for our participating commission staff. And speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call so that we know who is with us from the commission and note your attendance. So as I call your name, please unmute your microphone and state present or here. Starting with Commissioner Vernon Frank, Commissioner DeHaan Blevins, Commissioner Ann Bossler, Commissioner Michael Brown.
That's
Commissioner.
me.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Janet.
Good morning. I'm sorry. Commissioner Tracy DeCenzo.
Present.
Good morning. Commissioner Tyler Hughes.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Gina Jackson.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Ben Meza.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Udoka Nwana.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Keith Opstad.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Rebecca Smith.
Hello, Janet. Present.
Good morning. Commissioner Doreen Schonbrun. Commissioner Jason Whooper.
Present.
Good morning. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, and your attendance has been noted. Also joining us today is our fabulous arts and culture staff, and that includes Executive Director Jonathan Gluss, Chief of Civic Arts Strategies, Christine Jones, Senior Arts and Culture Funding Manager, Leticia Gomez Franco, and Senior Public Art Manager, Chuck Miller, Public Art Manager, Laura Bullock, and Project Manager, Belle, I have such a tough time getting used to this. Project Manager, Belle Reza. Welcome, Belle, I'm sorry. And as well as representatives from the officers of boards and commission, city attorney's office, and the city's IT department, who's doing a lot of heavy lifting these days. Leticia, can you please give us a rundown on how the meeting works, technically speaking?
Yes, of course. Good morning, Commissioner. I'd like to note for the record that since you called roll call, Ann Bossler and Doreen Schonbrun are now present.
Great, I see that. Thank you.
So yes, Commissioners, as you remember, when you move your mouse, your little toolbar will come up. The camera icon is to turn your cameras on and off. We do ask that Commissioners and staff please keep your cameras on for the duration of the meeting. The icon next to it, the microphone, is to mute and unmute yourself. We ask that you please keep yourself muted during the meeting unless you are going to speak. This will help reduce background noise and the echoing that happens sometimes. But do remember to unmute yourself when you want to speak. We also ask that you keep your chat window open, and that's a little conversation icon. You're going to use the chat window and you're going to type in speak when you would like to speak. If you'd like to make a motion, second a motion, participate in discussion, or when you do roll call or whatever, you're going to type in speak, and then Chair Poutre will call on you to speak. We do note that there is a little hand now, but we do ask that you continue typing in speak, because this way we know what order the request to speak came in. Also, for those of you that are calling in, we understand that you may not have a chat box to type speak into, so please notify Chair Poutre vocally that you would like to speak. And that's it.
Okay, pardon me. Thank you, Leticia. Also want to welcome Anne and Doreen. Thank you. And I'd like to call on Ben Mezov to read the Commission for Arts and Culture vision and statement of purpose, please.
Good morning. Our vision, expanding our world by celebrating creativity in San Diego. Our purpose, the City of San Diego Commission of Arts and Culture serves in an advisory capacity to the mayor and city council on promoting, encouraging, and increasing support for the region's artistic and cultural assets, integrating arts and culture into community life and showcasing San Diego as an international tourist destination. Thank you.
Nice job. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
Good morning, Chair Poutre. Yes, we have one non-agenda public comment, which I can read. The
Yes.
comment comes from Teresa Cozen. Good morning, commissioners. My comments are on behalf of Arts and Culture San Diego, a coalition of approximately 100 organizations, including many of the commission's funded partners. I would like to share examples of how our community is working together to share resources and create new virtual content for audiences of all ages. This week, Vanguard presented Brain Candy, a virtual salon series, which focused its June 24th meetup on exhibition curators from San Diego, Tijuana, and Washington, D.C. They discussed how they are addressing the new limitations of the pandemic and evolving role of storytelling in exhibitions of the future. San Diego Symphony has been virtually engaging audiences through a variety of YouTube programs, including Wednesdays Are for Superheroes. This weekly video series is based on the picture book Zap Boom Pow, Superheroes of Music by Lucy A. Warner. The project is narrated by Nubi Mehta and produced by the symphony musicians. In closing, I want to thank you again for your help in protecting the funding in the fiscal year 21 budget for arts culture organizations. These partners need every penny to keep the creative sector working and able to serve our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, chair's reports. Well, first, I want to express my hope that you and your families are all getting through this unusual time that we're having well, and everybody's health is good, and just know that, you know, that I'm thinking about you as people. I also like to thank you for attending what's been extra special, lots of meetings this month. In spite of our sheltering, we seem to be busier than ever. Policy and funding had 2 meetings. Executive committee met last week. And Anne's going to give us a full report on policy and funding in a little bit. But I do want to let you know about something going on with Commissioner Engagement Committee, which Udoka chairs. And in talking with her about the equity work that we're embarking on, I've asked her to take that into that committee and make that be the focus of their work this year. If you remember, we started that Commissioner Engagement Committee to help us become a more cohesive team, to get to know each other a little bit better. We had new staff on board, and I feel like we have moved through that moment, and that commissioner engagement is a perfect place for us to embark on equity work that will involve us as individuals looking deep into ourselves about our experiences around DEI in general, in our work life, in our personal life, and in our work as commissioners. So I was pleased that Udoka felt she had the time to take that on, and I thank her for doing that. So more about that as it progresses. We're not sure what that's going to look like, but the consultants, I believe, have already started some of the evaluation work in the city, and so I'm excited about that going forward, and I hope you all are looking forward to that as well. Okay, so our first action item today is the traditional minutes, and I hope everybody had a chance to look at them. May I please see if there were any, was there any public comment for this item?
No, there's no public comment.
Thanks, Christine. Would somebody like to make a move to approve the minutes? And remember, we do that by typing speak in the chat box, and I'll call on you. That's somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes, please? Thank you, Keith.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you very much. Anybody like to make a second? Gina?
I second.
Thank you, Gina. Udoka, were you there to second?
Yes, just a second. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. So is there any discussion on these minutes? Did anybody have an edit or anything to suggest? Okay, seeing none, I will take a vote. I'm sorry, do I hear somebody? Okay, I'll take a vote. I'll call your name and you'll respond out loud with yay, nay, or abstain. And remember, you don't have to have been present at the April meeting to vote or discuss. So, Commissioner Vernon Frank, Commissioner DeHaan Blevins, Commissioner Ann Bossler.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Michael Brown.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Tracy DeZenzo.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Tyler Hughes.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Gina Jackson.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Ben Meza.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Udoka Nwana.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Keith Opshead.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Rebecca Smith.
Yay.
Thank you. Commissioner Doreen Schoenbrunn. That sounds like a yay. Commissioner Jason Whooper.
Yay.
Thank you. Doreen, was that a yay? Turn your mic on. Okay.
Yay.
Thanks, Doreen.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, so thank you. My vote is a yay. So the motion carries. Minutes accepted. Alrighty. Let's move on to the Policy and Funding Committee. And before that, we have an action item there. But before that, Ann, do you want to do your committee report before we move on to the action item?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bossler, and I'm the chair of the Policy and Funding Committee. And we've had a couple of very informative meetings over the course of this month. And in recent weeks, thanks to some of the preliminary surveys, we've learned that the nonprofit sector, as we know, has been devastated by the impact of COVID-19. The arts and culture sector in particular has had to furlough and lay off staff, close down facilities, and still find ways to respond in the short term and to consider the long-term impact for their organizations. Central to our role now as a commission would be to find ways to respond beyond simply advising on funding and thinking about sustainability. And we're committed to working with our partners to guide that response in the coming months. During the regular committee meeting on June 12th, we had the opportunity to discuss some of the measures, and we're continuing to move forward in a manner that's going to help us to better understand the organizations themselves and the impact that they've been feeling. Staff has provided an update on some of the measures taken to support the current fiscal year 20 contractors, such as creating flexibility in the fulfillment of contracts and invoicing, and the invoicing process so organizations can have a more immediate access to their awarded funds. A report was also given on how fiscal year 21 priorities were met, such as increased outreach and technical assistance, leading to a record-breaking number of new applicants. Arts impact surveying is leading to the city's recently released Arts Impact Map, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. We've also been talking about other ways to gather data and to better inform our priorities for fiscal year 22 funding cycle, understanding that in these unprecedented times, staff is collecting data such as the fiscal year 20 final report, and there will be a confidential survey done by USD to assess the current impact of COVID-19 and a deeper dive into specifically the theater and the dance fields. The diversity, equity, inclusion work is going to be continuing to come up, and there's a hope to hold some town hall meetings for contractors to better understand how we're helping to shepherd this process in a way that has fiscal year 22 and the funding cycle helping them to the greatest extent possible. We do hope to have recommendations from staff for the commission meeting in September. In addition to the meeting on June 12th, we also had a special policy and funding committee meeting yesterday to go over draft revisions to City Council Transient Occupancy Policy 100-03 in concept. The committee made a recommendation to the commission to support the draft key revisions to the policy and concept. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Gluss to introduce this action item.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Anne. So I'm actually, Christine Jones has done the more than the lion's share of this work. So I'll turn it over to Christine to really walk you through the details. I'll just say that this is an initiative. This review is an initiative that came out of conversations beginning with this body and some of our contract partners well over a year ago. So we at the staff level have been looking at this internally in our sister department, economic development, and the certainly the Office of the Chief Operating Officer and the Mayor's Office for almost a year now. So it's been hundreds of hours of Christine's work in particular, getting us all internally focused on this work. So I'd like to introduce Christine to walk you through all of this. Christine, good morning.
Excuse me. Sorry, Christine, before we begin, I just need to ask, did we have any public comment on this item?
No, we did not receive any public comment.
Right, sorry. Go ahead, please. Thanks.
All right. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you, Jonathan, for that introduction. So as Jonathan indicated, we have been working on improving the funding program specifically with draft revisions to the council policy. The policy revisions will improve how the city prioritizes funding and distribution of those funds. And specifically, the revisions will be addressing some of the things that we have been talking about for the last year or so, including eligibility for organizations based on residency, where projects can be located. We're going to be looking at adjustment to the audit threshold and expanded categories to broaden applicant pools and opportunities for growth in the sector. The changes are informed, as Jonathan indicated, by feedback that we've been collecting for a number of years at this point from applicants, recipients, from all of you and other stakeholders. And I would add that these are stakeholders that are not only arts and culture related, but economic development related, because this is a policy that's larger than just arts and culture. So staff at this point is targeting to submit recommended policy amendments to City Council this summer. If City Council adopts the proposed revisions, we anticipate being able to implement the revised policy in preparation for the 2022 application guidelines, and that's why we're here today. We have limited time slots in terms of getting this item in any policy amendments docketed for City Council this summer. So that's why we had a special meeting yesterday, and that's why we're here today at the Commission. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit more background. Oops, is there somebody that would like to speak?
Anne, did you want to speak?
I just had a question. Christine, you've mentioned that the hurried pace is due to being able to take action at the City Council this summer. And my question would be that what would be if there wasn't a vote in favor of pushing it forward today, then when would be the next time that it could go before the council?
That's a very good question, Ann Bossler. Basically, if we don't docket it for the summer, I think we're looking at possibly implementation in 2023. So if we were to slow this down, we would probably not be able to implement for this fall's application guidelines for 2022.
So, Anne, the earliest, if we don't go in July to City Council, to ED&IR in particular, the committee, it doesn't meet in August, so it would be pushed back to, at the very earliest, September. And for us to have our application guidelines for FY22 reflect these changes, we would either have to push the guidelines calendar back into the fall or delay by a year, as Christine said.
So when you say push back into the fall, is there a way to have more time and to not have it get pushed into fiscal year 23?
No. Literally, when I say push back into the fall, what I meant was we would have to push back the application, the RFQ process into the fall, later into the fall, which then truncates the application, the RFQ, RFP period, or we would have to wait until FY23. So we're trying to be responsive to the contractors as well.
Okay, I have some comments, but I'm happy to hold those until the appropriate time.
Okay, shall I continue?
You can let me know if this is the appropriate time or if I should wait, whatever is better for you.
Well, if you have a question, that's fine. Otherwise, I can continue and maybe the question will be answered. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So in hearing from contractors, folks were not aware of the special meeting yesterday. And I think part of it may be that everybody, as we've just commented, everybody's struggling with the current state of affairs and COVID-19 and doing the best that they can to pivot. And we attend these meetings and we hear that there's no public comment, but I'm beginning to learn, as was kind of my hunch, that folks are not aware of what's being discussed, and it's understandable that things have gotten pushed and that there's a timeline and that this all kind of has to fold into itself, and certainly understand that and all of the hard work that's gone into this. My concern in looking at the history of the commission and how far we've come in recent years to be able to make sure that contractors feel supported and that their voice is heard and that everybody is on the same page is that if this is rushed, we run the risk of folks not having had a chance to be able to give appropriate input and to talk about any possible unintended consequences or that type of thing. So I just have to put out there that I know that I've consistently been talking about whether it's a town hall meeting or some sort of way to make sure that we're hearing the contractor's voice. And I am hearing from folks that they're not feeling informed and they're not feeling like they really understand kind of what the unintended, I'll say unintended consequences may be of some of these actions. So I think those are important pieces for us to consider.
Well,
Thank you, Anne. Pardon me. Rebecca Smith has asked to speak as well.
I just want to echo what Commissioner Bosler is saying. I mean, you know, we tried to talk through some of these issues at the meeting yesterday, but just upon more reflection, now that we're in the full commission meeting, I know we're not in a day when we can look out over the audience and see, you know, our funded partners with us. But I just wonder if we are moving fast and not getting, to Anne's point, not getting the full perspective of what might the implications be if we move forward with this. I'm not saying that there might be things that are negative. I'm just saying for me as a commissioner, I don't really know what those might be. So I'm just going to put that on the table. Thank you.
Okay, Christine, would you like to go ahead and continue, or do we want to continue having discussion before we hear the whole proposal?
I would suggest that we go through what the proposed revisions may be, and then we can you can further the conversation that you're having, and we can try to you know, provide information as to what the revisions could be and the timing. So so one of the things that I want to emphasize is that this is based on a lot of input that has been received directly from organizational contractors over the last couple of years. So this is in response to feedback that we have already received. So let me walk you guys through this, and then you're welcome to continue your conversation. So let's see. Okay, so obviously, you all received a report. So you received the current policy, a clean version and a red line version. I recognize, and we all recognize, that red line versions can be very difficult to read. A lot of that has to do with the reorganization of information, and is not reflective of any major changes. The major key revisions I'm going to walk you through today. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what I'd like to start with is just providing you some context of the policy itself. So this is a city council policy. It's called Policy 100-03. It details the guidelines for use of the city's TOT funds in furtherance of requirements that are already established in municipal code. So if you are familiar with how legislation works, the San Diego Municipal Code is like law, and council policies are under that. So that the municipal code dictates how TOT can be used. So it's used in furtherance of general government purposes as well as promotion of the city. So within this council policy, there are a number of priority areas outlined. Arts, culture, and community festivals is one of those areas, but this is a citywide policy, so it's not specifically an arts and culture policy. So other priority areas that are identified within the policy include economic development, safety and maintenance of visitor-related facilities, capital improvements for development of visitor-related facilities, and major events. The policy itself was originated back in March of 1965 to assist the city in achieving its current and future goals for TOT in a fiscally responsible and sustainable manner. As you might all know or remember, that transit occupancy tax funds are one of the third largest revenue sources for the city. And a TOT is a tax that's levied. It's a 10.5 cent per dollar tax that's levied on essentially people that stay at hotels or motels, Airbnbs, less than 30 days. And so again, those sources of funds are then dictated by municipal code on how they can be used. And this policy helps in furtherance of that. So next slide. So the current existing policy really sets forth the guidelines, again, for the use of the TOT funds, limitations of evaluating the increases to future TOT rates, the funding priorities areas for utilization of the funds. So remember, there's 5 priority areas, arts and culture, community festivals being one of those. And then also general methods by which the city will accept and evaluate applications for granting TOT funds. The policy itself was last amended back in 2005. So again, that's 15 years ago. So a lot of general cleanup with the policy revisions have to do with just making sure it aligns better with the municipal code, aligns better with current city systems and processes. Next slide. So as I mentioned, under the policy, there are 2 priority areas that have application processes. So that is Economic Development Department, Economic Development, and then Arts, Culture, Community Festivals. So within the Arts, Culture, Community Festival priority area, as you guys are familiar, the city administers processes for accepting and evaluating applications from nonprofit organizations that are requesting funding under 2 categories right now. Those categories, as you are very familiar with, are Organizational Support Program, which provides general operating support to arts and cultural organizations, and Creative Communities San Diego. And that provides project support for arts and culture projects within neighborhoods. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the other priority area that facilitates application processes is economic development. So consistent with the city's economic development strategy, the city administers application processes and receives applications from nonprofit organizations for projects and programs that support and promote the city as a visitor tourist for tourism-based sector work, enhance San Diego's economic health and position as a smart city and a center for innovation and entrepreneurship and technology, and development of base sector businesses. And base sector businesses are manufacturing, innovation, international trade, logistics, defense, or some of those focus-based sectors here in San Diego. Next slide. So the city takes significant steps to ensure that TOT funds are distributed in a fair and impartial, equitable manner. Staff routinely collects data from applicants, recipients, other stakeholders regarding all aspects of its TOT funding allocation programs. And those are programs not only in arts and culture, but in economic development as well. Staff does this through feedback from obtaining feedback from funding recipients and performance plans, various public meetings, applicant workshops, technical assistance, meetings of the Commission for Arts and Culture and your committees, as well as application evaluation panels. This information has been collected for a number of years to get to this point. Next slide. An analysis of this information showed that the revisions to the policy were needed to better promote the city as a center for innovation and creativity, and most importantly, clarify the general requirements and conditions for TOT funding application processes, a way to broaden TOT funding eligibility for applicant pools, and develop more equitable requirements for TOT funding recipients, while enhancing the impact of TOT funds within the San Diego city limits. Next slide. So given these findings that we've been identifying, Commission for Arts and Culture staff, along with Economic Development Department staff, has been working with the Department of Finance and the City Attorney's Office to improve the policy and submit proposed policy amendments to City Council. The proposed amendments will serve to modernize the policy, strengthen programmatic integrity, reinforce alignment with the city's use of TOT funds to better promote the city of San Diego. They'll support inclusive growth and development of San Diego's economy, build opportunities in the creative and tourism sector, and in turn produce significant local revenue that will positively impact communities across the city. Next slide. So the draft key revisions in concept, as I mentioned, there's technical adjustments throughout the policy that will modernize and clarify text, align text with the current municipal code. Again, it's been 15 years, so there's a lot of just general cleanup and reorganization to, again, align with the law, reflect departmental organizational changes that have happened since 2005. Their additional edits include reorganizing information, the renumbering and simplifying text for enhanced readability, and alignment with the TOT application processes and current contract administration. These changes throughout the policy do not change the spirit or the intent of the policy. Next slide. So what I want to focus on are the more significant revisions of the policy. These are changes to the type of applicants and available funding categories under arts, culture, and community festivals specifically is what I'm focusing on, but it also impacts economic development. So next slide. So currently the policy only allows distribution of funding to nonprofit organizations in the funding priority areas. So again, the priority areas being economic development and arts, culture, community festivals. The proposed revisions will allow, depending on a category, not all categories, but depending on a category, it will allow for a broader pool of applicants. These applicants, again, depending on the category, might be individuals, they might be for nonprofits, or other entities such as businesses and creative businesses specifically. Next slide. So while our OSP and Creative Community San Diego will continue to be only available for nonprofit organizations, we're looking again at ways to broaden applicant pools and start thinking about inclusive growth and where we might want to further invest in creating a stronger sector. So in thinking of that, 2 new categories have been identified within arts, culture, and community festival priority area. And this again will allow for a broader applicant pool. So the first category is called City Artists category, and this category will allow TOT funding for individual artists and groups of artists. It will be a new way to advance San Diego's economy, creative economy specifically, promote it as a place for artistic practice, and help retain and attract artists who often cite the reason for their leaving San Diego as a lack of sector support and opportunities. We hear this over and over again based on feedback that we've gotten from artist communities across San Diego. This is a new category, and it's an important, I think, first step to remain competitive amongst our peer cities. Most of our peer cities have type of grant opportunities for artists. This is a way for us to be able to promote San Diego as a hotbed of artistic activity in the future. Next slide. Another category, the second category, is called Impact category. The Impact category will allow TOT funding for excellence, innovation, and creativity in San Diego's arts, culture, and creative sectors through targeted funding initiatives. These targeted initiatives will help to support and recognize and sustain nonprofit organizations, individual artists and groups of artists, and for-profit art businesses in strengthening the arts, culture, and creative sector. The sector will, this is really about focusing on inclusive growth in the sector, allowing for forward-thinking approaches by supporting more types and sizes of recipients. Targeted support within the category could be informed by future cultural plans, cultural strategies, and priorities that we identify. So examples can range from cultural equity initiatives, funding initiatives, to creative entrepreneurship, to maybe focus on affordable cultural space and art space, to tying this or to tying grant funding potentially to city initiatives such as Climate Action Plan or a border initiative or arts marketing. So you can think of it as a large category framework that will allow for subcategories that are targeted and very thoughtfully executed. It might be that we focus one year on impact border and doing things along the border within the city of San Diego. It might be that we focus on an equity initiative and creating resilience and support in that sector. It might be that we decide that we want to highlight and celebrate a particular discipline. So maybe it would be impact, year of theater. So this is a very strategic way for us to think about funding in the future and to grow that and be able to support nonprofits and artists in different ways. Next category, or next slide, sorry. So the other area where there are key revisions are within the requirements and conditions. So in the policy, there's an attachment, it's called Attachment A, and it outlines the general requirements and conditions for funding. And this, again, is for the application processes under economic development and arts, culture, and community festival priority areas. This whole section is being reorganized for enhanced readability. A lot of information was just reorganized because staff found the existing language to be vague, confusing, outdated, and these revisions will really help to clarify and focus the general requirements to improve the distribution of funding within San Diego itself. So the substantive revisions fall under general eligibility section and the financial disclosure section of this, and I'm going to focus on those with you. So next slide. So under the general eligibility, which has been reorganized, the revisions will help to streamline program administration and ensure that TOT funding eligibility benefits a broader pool of applicants within San Diego. Next slide. Specifically, there's a reduction for a track record period required for eligibility. This will expand the participant pool and the overall reach of TOT funding. This is something that we've gotten feedback over a number of years that there are many organizations that haven't reached that. And this is a way for us to be more inclusive in our thinking and allowing for a 2-year track record rather than a 3, which is what is currently in place. Next slide. Another revision under the general eligibility section is to clarify that entities who can receive general operational support. And this is specifically under Arts, Culture, and Community Festivals priority area, and specifically OSP. So moving forward, organizational support program, the organizations will need to be headquartered within San Diego. They will also, it also clarifies that they will need to have a mission that is clearly focused on arts, culture, activities, and programming within San Diego. Now, generally speaking, there's only a couple organizations right now that are outside of the city that are getting general operating support. This is specifically in response to, this change is specifically in response to organizations, that feedback that we have gotten over the last few years to help clarify this. So this will clarify that, again, they need to be headquartered within the city of San Diego to get general operating support. Next slide. Another revision will limit eligibility for project support through categories like CCSD to those that have offices in the county of San Diego. So right now there's nothing clarifying where an organization can be based in order to get project support. So this will clarify that an organization needs to be located within the San Diego County with an office in San Diego County to get that support. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Another key revision will be to clarify that project location. So the actual organizations that get project support, it's really not clear right now that the project has to take place within the city of San Diego. Now, obviously, most projects do take place, but this will clarify that that has to be the case. Because TOT funds are supposed to be benefiting San Diegans, they're supposed to be benefiting our city and growth within the city. So this clarifies that. And again, this is in response to feedback that we've gotten from the organizations over the last few years. Next slide. The other focused area for the draft revisions is within the financial disclosure section. And this revision will enhance equitability while still maintaining recipient accountability. And specifically, it's going to create an intermediate tier in the financial disclosure section of the attachment A. Currently, the financial disclosure section requires recipients receiving $75,000 or more to submit a year-end audited financial document to the city, in addition to other financial documentation. Next slide. The addition of an intermediate level of financial disclosure will allow recipients with an operating budget under $2 million and receiving $75,000 or more in TOT funding to submit a financial review by an independent CPA in lieu of an audit. This will align the policy with California's audit requirement threshold for charitable organizations. And most importantly, it's going to reduce the costs that particularly deplete the resources of less financially able recipients. We have received a number of comments and input from small organizations that find this to be very challenging for them to meet this based on costs. A cost of an audit can be upwards of $10,000 even for a small organization. This also will align with our peer cities. So for example, in San Francisco and LA, which don't require audits until we get to that 2 million mark. So this is a way for us to align again with our peer cities as well. Next slide. Commission for Arts and Culture staff and Economic Development Department staff are continuing to work with the Department of Finance and the Office of the City Attorney to improve the policy. I would say as a point of clarification that the general processes for funding recommendations that are submitted to City Council for approval during the city's annual budget development process does not change with any of these proposed revisions. That is a separate process. This is a policy that creates a framework on how funds can be used, but it doesn't dictate funds from year to year on how much funding and all of that. So that continues to be in the budget development process. At this point, city staff is anticipating submitting policy amendments this summer. Again, as I mentioned, if the amendments were to be adopted, staff would begin implementation of a revised policy in preparation for release of the 2022 application guidelines in the fall. So to clarify that, that would be that in the guidelines, so for example, we would be able to clarify some of the general eligibility things that have been challenging and confusing the last few years because of this. And again, it's in response directly to feedback that we've gotten from organizations over the last few years. So I would just add that the Policy and Funding Committee's recommendation, let's go to the next slide. The Policy and Funding Committee yesterday recommended to the Commission for the draft revisions in concept. The revisions, again, are going to modernize and strengthen the programmatic integrity and reinforce alignment of the city's use of TOT funds to promote the city with the municipal code. I would really want to reiterate that this is really in order to support inclusive growth and development with San Diego's economy. Again, it will build new opportunities in creative tourism sectors and in turn help us produce more significant local revenue that will positively impact communities across the city. So with that, that concludes my report and happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Christine. How about this? We have an action item, and if we put forward the motion and second, then we can have our discussion. So would somebody like to put forward a motion and a second?
I would like to motion that we table this item.
All righty. John Dwyer, help me. What do we do? Do we vote on the tabling?
If you get a second, you vote on the tabling. If not, it doesn't need a vote. It just goes away.
I see Tyler. Thank you, John. Tyler?
I actually have a point of, and John, maybe you can weigh in on this. It's a clarification question. Because this was voted on in a subcommittee yesterday and brought forth, is the committee automatically submitting it for approval? And does it even need a first step of a vote for approval? A motion to approve, or is the committee motions to approve? It's just a clarification question.
You know, I've wondered myself a few times. Go ahead, John.
As I understand the question, the committee's vote yesterday was simply to recommend to the full commission to recommend to full council and committee to adopt this council policy. So the committee's vote yesterday would not impact today's vote in any way, creating any less of a requirement for a motion, that type of stuff, if that helps.
Thank you. Okay, so Anne has put forth a motion that we table this action item. Anne, would you like to put any sort of a timing on that, or just say tabling it?
My motion is to table this. As I understand, there could be an opportunity to, is somebody trying to talk in the background? So my motion is to table with the opportunity for appropriate discussions and to be able to meet the deadline of bringing it back. You know, staff.
I'm sorry, Anne, I didn't quite get the last bit.
Let me make the motion, Jonathan.
Hang on a second.
Inform the time frame that would make sense to get the proper input and still be able to move this forward in a way that is expeditious.
Hey, Anne, is your computer muted?
Not right
In the
now.
sense of
Janet, this is Jonathan. Can you just ask everybody to mute themselves, please?
Yes, please, if you're not actually speaking, mute yourself. That would be everybody but me right now. Okay, Anne, I would like you to unmute yourself and tell me again what your tabling motion is so that everybody can understand it. Last time was a little hard to understand.
Okay, can you now?
Yes, again, remember if you have a speaker and microphone in the same place, it's going to give you that problem. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to ask a clarifying question if I could, please, before the motion. I'd like to ask Jonathan if he could please speak to a time frame that would allow for this to still proceed, given all of the hard work that staff has gone through, but to make sure that we have appropriate feedback so that we're minimizing any unintended consequences. Once we have that information, happy to make a motion.
Okay, and then Jonathan, when you're finished, Rebecca, I see you have something to say too. So Rebecca is next after Jonathan. Go ahead, please, Jonathan.
Sure. So if you table it or and send it back to staff today, then we can have a discussion about an opportunity for another round of community input. Very likely that would mean that we would not take it to ED and IR, the Committee of Council, in July. Excuse me, we would instead take it in September. So to meet, to be able to integrate these policy changes into the FY22 application guidelines and the RFQ process, that means that we would move the process, the RFQ opening date into October. It would probably truncate the application period for FY22, but we can still accomplish all of what we want to do by doing that.
Okay, so
does that make sense, Janet?
I hear you. Thank you. Rebecca was waiting to speak.
Actually, Janet, just process on the chat here. I was hoping to second what I heard was Anne's motion. So.
Okay, stand by. All right, Jonathan, I understand what you had to say. One thing that concerns me in terms of truncating that application time is, if I recall correctly, this year we will have more applicants because a number of applicants whose extension periods have expired and now need to reapply because they're no longer extending. Am I right about that?
Leticia, can you give us a number on what that looks like? I think I think we're another year away from the big number. Leticia, okay. Can you clarify?
Yeah, we expect to have between 75 and 100 organizations going to panel this year.
Okay, thank you. I see, first of all, welcome Vernon has joined our meeting. Thank you. And Anne, go ahead.
So another clarifying question, please. Jonathan, it would truncate the application itself or the process?
Sorry, Anne. We would have to slightly shorten the period of time that the field has to apply for, submit their information for RFQ, and then probably slightly shorten the period of time for RFP. We're talking about just, a couple weeks. So we'd fit in a little bit we'd reduce the fall application RFQ period by probably a week or 10 days, and then we'd do the same in the winter. So we'd have to really ramp up communication with the field so everybody's on board with the fact that it's a slightly shorter amount of time, which is possible. Does that help?
It does. It occurs to me that if the current situation continues, which it looks like it will, it may be a virtual process in terms of the panels. So in some ways, fraught with challenges perhaps, but it might expedite things as well. Again, I'm happy to make a motion, but I see that Tyler wants to speak, so I'll defer to the chair.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Thank you. And Jonathan, thank you very much for that clarification. I think that's really important. Honey, I love you, but if you could just scooch and go over there and play ponies. Sorry, there's an emergency in Ponyville. It's got to be addressed. The idea of truncating a little bit, of shaving off some of the time of the RFQ and the RFP is, while unfortunate, I think is necessary, because I think that right now we'd be doing this too fast. It's a little, we want to be able to do a proper listening session with all our contractors, with the field, and I think they will understand the need that, we have to get this to City Council in a timely manner, but we want their input. So I think they'll understand the competing forces and that we want to be on the side of transparency. So we're willing to, table now, have some listening sessions during policy and funding or special listening sessions, and then move it forward.
Thank you, Tyler. That's, it's a good, Keith would like to speak. Go ahead. And then Jason.
Having had my eyes on this yesterday during the special policy and funding meeting, it did take a little bit of time to process. So I kind of get where everybody's at. I have no problem extending that. I just wanted to publicly thank Christine and the staff because there was so much time put into this, but also I'm absolutely thrilled about the inclusion of the city artist and impact initiatives. And they see significant potential for economic and community impact. So I want to make sure it's done properly.
Thank you. Keith, Jason.
Hello, good morning. I have a question for both staff and policy and funding. I'm kind of curious. On the one hand, we've recently had a substantial decrease in budget due to probably COVID-19 stuff happening, which will impact the contractors that we've had in the past and built relationships with going forward for fiscal year 2021. On the other hand, we have this new set of policies, which sound great. I love the whole idea of them, but expanding the pool of eligibility, or I don't know, going out there trying to find new contractors to get a piece of the pie would substantially decrease the amount of money going to the contractors even further at a time when they're starving, hurting, looking for funds, trying to survive. So I wonder, have we looked at any projections on what we anticipate that would do to the contractors that we've already had relationships with for years if we move forward with something like this? And is that something that, is just a cost that we're willing to move forward with to enjoy the benefits of having these new programs, such as the City Artist, which sounds great, and the impact category.
Okay, thank you, Jason. I see a couple other people want to speak. Jason, were you asking a question that you'd like an answer for first before we move on to someone else's comment?
Yes, I apologize. Maybe I got lost in my own thoughts. So I have a question to Executive Director Jonathan Gluss and Commissioner Bosler. Have you guys looked at the projected decreases in funding to our current ongoing contractors that would result from adopting these new policies, and what would those numbers be? Are there any approximations?
Janet, do you mind?
No, please go ahead, Jonathan, and then Ann.
I think that is really a really important clarifying question. Thank you. So 100-03 is a council document, as we all know, that does not mandate that our guidelines include everything in council policy. So by adding this language, it doesn't at all necessitate that we create new categories. What it does do is it gives us a framework at the council level so that when we are in a different time, ideally with more funding, we have the policy mechanism to allow us to do that. But it by no means mandates that come fall, you're going to see 2 new categories. That's something that would be still as part of the review process by the Policy and Funding Committee and this body in the fall. Staff would still be bringing proposed changes to the guidelines back to both policies in late summer. I'm sorry, both bodies in late summer or early fall. So thank you for that question.
Ann?
I would like to make a motion to table this item.
I'm sorry, I had my mic off. Do you want to say, I want to table this until A, something happens, or B, a date, or?
I want to table this until we have appropriate feedback to be able to make informed decisions, and then to have it come back at the appropriate time so that it can move forward to council. I think it was said in September, is that right?
Yes.
All right. I see Tyler. Wanted to
I
speak.
believe Rebecca was ahead of me, though.
Thank you, Janet. This is where I was just going to go ahead and second Ann's motion.
Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table the approval of this particular item. Is there any further discussion? Tyler?
Thank you, Janet. And maybe this is a question again for John. By tabling it, does that automatically refer it back to policy and funding? Because my recommendation was going to be, and maybe if it does not automatically refer it back to that subcommittee, then I would offer a friendly amendment to refer the topic back to policy and funding, with the intention that policy and funding holds 1 or 2 special sessions of discussions with the community to talk about what we're doing, plus the potential impact. And Jonathan, I loved your comment that this is just giving the team the tools going forward. It doesn't necessitate that we make changes right now in this point of stress financially, but looking 5 years in the future when San Diego is rocking and we're bringing in, a cool $2 billion a year in new activity, then we can just spread the money around. But it's setting plans up for the future, and I'm really excited about that. So my question is to
I
John,
will
can we report
respond
that?
with regard to what the tabling motion would do.
Yes,
And
please.
at this point in time, a table motion would simply refer it back to staff. In terms of what I'm hearing being discussed about getting feedback from contractors before moving forward or getting a better idea, I heard Christine already say that this is based on previous feedback. However, the feedback that I hear that you guys are looking for, kind of like the town hall feedback, is really not conducive, or our current virtual environment is not conducive to that. And the Brown Act requirements, if you put it within a committee, or I'm talking, sorry, but everybody, my kid's in here. I need you to go. Thank you. Bye. Sorry, y'all.
Feel your pain, John. Feel your pain.
Yeah, it's all good. It's a nice drawing. It's a very artistic drawing. That's very appropriate for this meeting. But back to my point is that if that type of feedback is what is being desired by the commission, I would recommend different methods of obtaining that do not require the Brown Act requirements of a committee meeting or a full commission meeting. And the referral back to staff will actually help in that process to help decide how you want to go about getting that feedback. And if Christine could chime in with regard to the feedback that was obtained already in order to implement the proposed changes, or Jonathan.
So you're referring it back to staff. So let's do this. Refer it back to staff. We're hearing that you all would want further input. We are really at a challenged point inside City Hall right now to expand committee, commission, and even city council platforms. So we need to figure out how to engage the community for more input. So that's our job, to figure that out. And we're happy to do so. So perhaps staff can get back to Anne and Janet with some recommendations on how we could further engage community input in the month of July around this.
Okay, sounds good. Anne, I noticed you had a comment to make.
I appreciate Jonathan stepping in to clarify. So I'm encouraged with where we are at this point, making sure that staff is able to find ways to be sure that we have appropriate feedback so we can make informed decisions. So thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any other comment or discussion in regard to the motion, which is to table this action item and send it back to staff for potential ways of engaging the community further? Anybody have any other comments to make? Alrighty, then we'll go ahead and take a vote, and I'll say your name, and please give me your vote out loud. Commissioner Vernon Frank?
Yay.
Commissioner DeHaan Blevins? Commissioner Ann Bossler?
Yay.
Commissioner Michael Brown?
Yay.
Commissioner Tracy DeCenzo?
Yay.
Commissioner Tyler Hughes?
Yay.
Commissioner Gina Jackson?
Yay.
Commissioner Ben Meza?
Yay.
Commissioner Udoka Nwana?
Yay.
Commissioner Keith Opstad?
Yay.
Commissioner Rebecca Smith?
Yay.
Commissioner Doreen Schonbrun?
Yay.
Commissioner Jason Whooper,
Yay.
and my vote is a yay, so the motion carries. Okay, thank you, folks. And next up, we have Public Art Committee. So, Ben Meza, would you like to give us a report from your committee, please?
Thank you. The Public Art Committee has no action items for this meeting. However, we'll take this opportunity to remind the Commission about the 2 public art initiatives that are currently live. SD Practice is the city's collecting initiative for existing artworks produced by San Diego-based artists in the past 5 years. The initiative is designed to provide support to San Diego-based artists via direct purchase of artworks and to update and diversify the city's civic art collection. Submissions for consideration are due by Monday, July 13th. Also, Park Social, an initiative to commission 18 temporary socially focused public art projects throughout the city park system. Responses to the requests for qualifications Park Social are due Monday, August 3rd. More information about the initiatives and information about how to apply can be found at the Commission's website. I strongly encourage my fellow commissioners to continue to spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meza. Alrighty, let's hear from Advocacy and Outreach. Commissioner Hughes.
We have not had an advocacy meeting this month, but wanted to report that as chair of advocacy, I've been representing the commission in planning reopening town halls with the Performing Arts League, One San Diego, One Story, and a whole bunch of other groups to get that moving, which is very exciting. And that's everything on my end.
Alrighty, thank you. And Commissioner Nuana, do you have something to add about commissioner engagement?
No, I don't. I think you put it together very well at the start of the meeting. I'm just excited to get started.
Me too. Thank you.
Janet, we can't hear you.
That's because I had my microphone muted. So I'm sorry, I neglected to ask if there was any public comment for any of these items.
No, there isn't.
All right, great. Well, it's time for the Jonathan Glass Show. Go ahead, Jonathan, give us your executive report.
Thank you, Janet. No show here this morning. I want to thank everybody for this conversation. Firstly, this is why I really appreciate working with you all, because you take this seriously. We're really, candidly, we are struggling with these, how much we can push these virtual platforms. And we have, I would say that our IT department has responded incredibly quickly and have ramped up resources. Just as a quick example, there are major cities up and down the West Coast that still are not convening committees. So I believe we were, if not the first, one of the first out the door this spring in actually creating a platform for committees. So I understand this is really frustrating for everyone. It's frustrating for staff as well. But we'll work on some methods for better community-wide engagement. The other thing that I'll mention is, in addition to everything that Chair Bosler said about the funding program in particular, Commissioner Hughes mentioned the town hall that's being worked on right now. We are, and I want to pause and make sure that we have the date for that. Carla, can you clarify what the date and time will be for this town hall? While Carla's pulling that, the town hall is being organized by SDRAC, the Commission for Arts and Culture, Museum Council, Performing Arts League, I believe, and the One City, One Story. Tyler is working on it very closely with us as a commission rep. Carla is muted. We'll make sure that you get that information as soon as possible. This is very much focused on just reopening. It's focused at the field, and then here we go, July 9th from 9 to 10:30 a.m. And then we anticipate a series of additional town halls based on the response from that first meeting. So we're excited to get that going. The other thing that I'd like to just remind everybody is we do have an important study that we've been holding, our Creative Economy Assessment. We've been holding that just to get through the onslaught of an impact of COVID and the Black Lives Matter priorities for the city. So now that we're nearing FY22, we will resuscitate that as an initiative for launching that. Obviously, you all will need to be engaged with that. And I believe that is it, Janet. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to our entire wonderful staff for everything you're doing to keep us going through this. Jonathan, I think that's very telling that we're so far ahead of everyone else on using this platform. I appreciate all of you doing whatever you needed to do to make sure that you could get to these meetings and be present and be part of them and participate. I think it's great. Alrighty, does anybody have any other comments or items for future agendas? I don't see anybody wanting to speak. In terms of the next meeting, I hope that more of you will keep your camera on. I really do miss seeing you. It's nice to see you when you do turn your camera on, and so I hope more of you will do that this coming meeting. And in terms of the arts, culture, and creativity experiences we've all been having lately, I'm guessing a lot of them have been happening in your living room or maybe in your craft room or outside in your yard. Does anybody have anything real exciting that they'd like to change? Yes, Vernon, we did change the camera policy we requested because it is more accessible to the community to be able to see us. And since people can watch these meetings on YouTube, I believe, it is being recorded. So anyway, does anybody have something to share in the terms of arts, culture, creativity experiences? Sorry, Tyler.
I had the good fortune to watch the Juneteenth roundtable discussion put on by the rep with our own Dahan Blevins, and it was fascinating, illuminating, and inspiring, but also really caused a lot of thought internally for me. And if anybody else got the chance to watch it, if you did not get a chance to watch it, I recommend finding it on Facebook Live. It is well worth a really dedicated listen.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for the recommendation. And Vernon, in terms of your makeup artist, you can wear a mask, you know, so you really only have to do the top half. Okay, anybody else have anything to add? Alrighty, well, if that is the case, then I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting early. I'm sorry, does somebody wanted to speak?
I was,
Doreen? Doreen, were you?
hello? Yes.
Yes.
I just want to say very quickly that I am so impressed with the staff and with this group of commissioners. I've been on the commission for a long time. I'm your old dinosaur sitting here listening so proudly like a mama. Incredible work. It's been long, and so long in coming to see this kind of effort and precision, and that we will actually possibly have the chance to get our share of the TOT for the commission, and it's going to happen. And I just thank you all, and Janet, you're awesome, and you're all awesome, and I'm proud to be here for the short time that I have left, and I can't say enough about you, this particular group of this generation. So I think we're going to see great things done. Thank you.
Doreen, thanks for the warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, that's good for that.
Yeah, that's a nice way to end. All right, everybody. We will see you all, no doubt, pretty soon. Be well, take care of yourselves and your families, and see you soon. Peace out.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, Janet. Bye, Doreen.
Bye, Jonathan.